The Velic Empire had conquered 47 planets. They had defeated species with claws the size of swords. They had crushed civilizations that could breathe fire. They had never failed. Not once. And now, they were coming for Earth. Commander Brick stood on the bridge of his massive ship and looked at the blue planet below. His gray skin stretched into what his species called a smile. His 4 eyes blinked one after another as he studied the readings on his screen. "This will be easy," he said to his crew. "The humans are soft. They are weak. They spend their time looking at small glowing rectangles and arguing about nothing. We will conquer them before breakfast." Lieutenant Moru, his second-in-command, nodded nervously. Moru was always nervous. It was his natural state. "Yes, Commander. But perhaps we should study them more first. The reports say they are unusual." Brick laughed. It was a wet, gurgling sound. Unusual? They cannot even agree on what temperature their planet should be. They are fools. Now, prepare for landing. We will start with the city that has the highest energy readings. The ship's computer beeped. Location identified. City name, Seoul. Country, South Korea. Population, 10 million. Energy readings are extremely high. Brick rubbed his hands together. All 6 of them. Perfect. A major power center. They probably have weapons there. Military bases. Important leaders. What Brick did not know was that the high energy readings were actually coming from thousands of neon signs, 24-hour convenience stores, and one very large shopping district that never turned off its lights. The mothership descended through the clouds at exactly 2:17 in the morning. It was massive. It blocked out the stars. It made a sound like thunder mixed with 1,000 angry bees. Lights flashed. The ground shook. Car alarms went off across the city, and almost nobody cared. Jinho was working the night shift at his convenience store when the ship appeared. He was 26 years old, tired beyond words, and 3 hours away from the end of his shift. He looked up from his phone, saw the massive alien vessel hovering over the city, and shrugged. "Not my problem," he muttered. "I do not get paid enough for this." He went back to restocking the ramen shelves. A few blocks away, Grandmother Yuna was cleaning her food cart. She was 73 years old, barely 5 feet tall, and scared of absolutely nothing. She had survived a war, raised 4 children, and once fought off a thief with nothing but a soup ladle. An alien ship was not going to ruin her night. She looked up at the glowing vessel and frowned. "You are blocking my view," she shouted at it. "And my customers cannot find me with you sitting there. Move!" The ship, of course, did not move. Yuna spat on the ground and continued cleaning. "Rude," she said. "Very rude." Across the city, Hana was sitting in her bedroom when the invasion began. She was 17, should have been asleep, and was instead watching videos about conspiracy theories. When she saw the light outside her window, she grabbed her phone immediately. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God. This is it. This is really it." She started live streaming within seconds. "Hello everyone. You are not going to believe this. There is an actual alien ship outside my window right now. I am not joking. Look." She pointed her phone at the window. The comments exploded. "Fake," wrote one viewer. "Nice special effects," wrote another. "This is obviously a Samsung advertisement," wrote a third. Hana shook her head in frustration. "It is real. I am telling you, it is real." Within 10 minutes, she had 2 million followers. Within 20 minutes, she had sponsorship offers. By the time the first alien soldiers landed, she was already planning her merchandise line. On the mothership, Commander Brick watched the city through his viewing screen. He waited for the panic. He waited for the screaming. He waited for the humans to run through the streets in terror. None of that happened. Lieutenant Moru, Brick said slowly. Why are they not afraid? Moru checked his readings. Then he checked them again. Then he made a small, worried sound. Commander, it appears that they think we are an advertisement. A what? An advertisement. For selling products. They believe we are fake. Brick stared at him. We are a warship from the Velok Empire. We have destroyed civilizations. We have ended worlds. And they think we are trying to sell them things? Yes, Commander. Brick was quiet for a long moment. Send in the ground troops. We will show them we are real. Down on the street, Taiho was walking home from work. He had been at the office for 16 hours. He had not slept in 3 days. He was running on energy drinks and pure spite. When he saw the alien soldiers marching down the road, he barely reacted. The soldiers were tall. They had gray skin and too many arms. They carried weapons that glowed with strange light. They looked terrifying. Taiho walked right up to them. Great costumes, he said, his eyes half closed from exhaustion. Really great. Very realistic. Are you promoting a movie? Can I get a picture? My co-workers will not believe this. Before the aliens could respond, Taiho threw his arm around the nearest soldier and took a selfie. Thanks, he said. Good luck with your promotion. Then he walked away, leaving 3 confused alien warriors standing in the middle of the street. On the mothership, Commander Brick received the report. He read it twice. Then he read it a 3rd time. They are broken, he said quietly. These humans are completely broken. He did not know that the invasion had only just begun, and things were about to get much, much worse for the Velok Empire. Commander Brick sat in his chair and stared at the reports coming in from the ground. They made no sense. None of them made any sense. Lieutenant Moru, he said, tell me again what happened to Squad 7. Moru swallowed nervously. They approached the small food station, Commander. An old female human was operating it. They attempted to threaten her into submission, and she fed them, Commander. Brick blinked all 4 of his eyes. She what? She gave them food. Small red sticks covered in spicy sauce. 3 of our soldiers ate it. Moru paused. They have refused to return to the ship. They say they will not fight anymore. They say the food is too good. They say they have found happiness. Brick stood up so fast his chair fell over. They defected? Over food? Yes, Commander. The old woman is now calling them her new grandsons. She is teaching them to cook. Down on the street, Grandmother Yuna was indeed teaching 3 alien soldiers how to make tteokbokki. The soldiers had removed their helmets. They had put on aprons. One of them was crying. You stir like this, Yuna said, demonstrating with her ladle. Not too fast. Not too slow. You must have patience. This is the most beautiful thing I have ever experienced, one of the soldiers said, wiping his eyes with 2 of his hands. On our planet, all food comes in gray cubes. It has no taste. It has no love. That is very sad, Yuna said. No wonder you are all so angry. You need more soup in your life. She handed him a bowl. He took 1 sip and began crying again. Across the city, the invasion was going equally poorly. A squad of Velok soldiers had cornered a group of humans in an office building. This should have been a simple capture mission. The humans should have surrendered immediately. Instead, something very different happened. Taiho was in that building. He had gone back to work because his boss had sent him 18 messages about a report that was due yesterday. He was so tired that he had forgotten about the alien invasion entirely. When the soldiers burst through the door, Taiho looked up from his computer with empty eyes. Are you here about the quarterly report? He asked. The lead soldier pointed his weapon at Taiho. Human, you will surrender now. Resistance is useless. Taiho stared at him. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had worked for 3 days straight and no longer feared death. You think you can scare me? Taiho said, I have 7 meetings tomorrow. My boss sends me emails at 3 a.m. I have not seen my family in 2 weeks. I sleep under my desk. You want to threaten me? Get in line. You are not even in my top 10 problems right now. The soldiers looked at each other. They had been trained to handle fear. They had been trained to handle anger. They had not been trained to handle this. Perhaps we should try another building? One soldier suggested. Yes, the lead soldier agreed. This one is defective. They left quickly. Taiho went back to his report. Meanwhile, the Velux science team had deployed their greatest psychological weapon. It was called the Fear Projector. It reached into the minds of enemy species and amplified their deepest anxieties. It had broken entire planets. It had driven warriors to madness. It was about to be tested on humans for the first time. Scientist Pello activated the device and waited dot on the ground. Millions of humans felt a strange sensation wash over them. Their anxieties were being amplified. Their fears were growing stronger. But here was the problem. Humans already lived with constant anxiety. They worried about money. They worried about work. They worried about their health. They worried about the future. They worried about things that had happened 10 years ago. They worried about things that might never happen at all. The fear projector turned all of this up to maximum, and humans felt exactly the same. I am checking the readings, Pello said into his communicator, his voice shaking. The device is working at full power. But the humans, they are not reacting. Their anxiety levels were already at maximum. We cannot make them more afraid, because they are already as afraid as biologically possible. They just live like this, all the time. Commander Brick could not believe what he was hearing. They live in constant maximum fear? Yes, Commander. And they still go to work. They still laugh. They still function. I do not understand these creatures. In a small apartment, Sunho was playing his favorite mobile game when an alien soldier crashed through his window. Sunho was 68 years old. He was a retired military veteran, and he had been playing this particular game for 6 years. The soldier raised his weapon. Sunho did not even look up from his phone. You have 5 seconds to leave before I deal with you. The soldier laughed. You, an old man? What can you do? Sunho paused his game. He looked at the alien, and then he moved. The fight lasted 12 seconds. When it was over, the soldier was on the ground, groaning in pain. Sunho stood over him, not even breathing hard. The controls are the same as my game, Sunho said. Attack, dodge, counterattack. You are too slow. You have no strategy. You play like a beginner. He sat back down and resumed his game. The soldier crawled out through the broken window. He did not come back. On the mothership, Commander Brick received all of these reports at once. He read about the soldiers who had defected for food. He read about the human who had laughed at threats. He read about the fear projector failing. He read about the old man who had defeated a trained warrior while playing a game. He sat in silence for a long time. Lieutenant Moru, he said finally, I am beginning to think we made a mistake coming here. What do we do, Commander? Brick straightened in his chair. We use more force. These humans may be strange, but they are still primitive. Tomorrow, we will show them the true power of the Velux Empire. He did not see Moru's worried expression. He did not know that tomorrow would be even worse. And somewhere on the streets of Seoul, Grandmother Yuna was teaching her new alien grandsons a song about making soup. They sang it together, their strange voices mixing with hers, as the mothership loomed overhead like a giant, useless decoration. Commander Brick had a new plan. A better plan. A plan that could not possibly fail. "We will attack their bodies, since their minds cannot be broken," he announced to his remaining troops. "We will release the sleep toxin. It is a gas that makes any species fall into deep sleep for 3 days. While they sleep, we will simply walk in and take over. It is perfect." Lieutenant Moreau nodded, though he looked worried. He always looked worried now. The ships flew over Seoul at midnight. They released clouds of the sleep toxin. The gas drifted down through the streets, into the buildings, into the homes. It touched millions of people, and almost nothing happened. Koreans, as it turned out, had built up a natural resistance to anything that tried to make them sleep. They worked too hard. They slept too little. Their bodies had adapted. The gas that could knock out a giant warrior from planet Krell for a week barely made the average Korean office worker, Yon Tae-ho, still at his desk, felt the gas enter his lungs. For a moment, his eyes felt heavy. Then he shook his head and took a sip of his 6th energy drink. "Actually," he said to himself, "I feel more awake now. Strange." He worked for another 4 hours on the mothership. Scientist Pella was screaming into his communicator. "It is not working. The sleep toxin is not working. Their blood is full of something called caffeine. It is blocking everything. How much caffeine does one species need?" Commander Brick threw his report across the room. "Fine. If we cannot put them to sleep, we will cut off their communication. They are addicted to their little glowing rectangles. Take those away, and they will fall apart." The Velok activated their signal jammers. Every phone in Seoul went dark. Every computer lost connection. Every screen that once glowed with endless content went black and silent. Rick smiled. Now we will see them panic. But humans, it turned out, did not panic. They adapted out of pure spite. Within hours, people had found other ways to communicate. Old men pulled out radios from their closets. Teenagers discovered that handwritten notes still worked perfectly well. Some people even started using carrier pigeons that had been kept by an old bird enthusiast in the Gangnam district. "This is actually nice," one woman told her neighbor, as they passed paper messages over their balconies. "I forgot what it was like to talk to people without looking at a screen. My eyes feel better already." Jinho's convenience store became a community hub. Without their phones, people actually started talking to each other. They shared news. They made plans. They organized. "You know," Jinho said, looking around at his suddenly full store, "this is the most business I have done in years. Maybe the aliens should stay." He was joking. Mostly but the real turning point came because of Hana. Hana had lost her phone signal like everyone else. Her live stream was dead. Her followers could not see her. For about 5 minutes, she panicked. Then she got angry. "They think they can silence me?" she said. "They do not know who they are dealing with." She went to her old laptop. She found an old radio transmitter her father had kept from his youth. She figured out how to use it. Within an hour, she was broadcasting to half the city. "Attention, Seoul. This is Hana. The aliens have cut our phones, but they cannot cut our spirit. I have a plan. Everyone who can hear this, meet at the Central Plaza at 8 p.m. tonight. We are going to fight back with the most powerful weapon we have." That weapon was K-pop. At 8 p.m., 10,000 people gathered in the plaza. The Velok soldiers were already there, prepared for a confrontation. They expected weapons. They expected anger. They did not expect what came next. Hana had organized a flash mob. The music started from 100 portable speakers. It was loud. It was synchronized. It was the catchiest song in the nation. And then 10,000 people started dancing. The Velok weapons were designed to track movement and respond to threats. But they could not process this. 10,000 people moving in perfect sync, doing the same dance at the same time. The tracking systems went crazy. They could not identify targets. They could not separate threats from non-threats. They overloaded. Every weapon in the plaza shut down at once. The soldiers stood there, unarmed, surrounded by dancing humans who were having the time of their lives. "What do we do?" one soldier asked. "I do not know," another replied. "But I think I want to learn this dance." By the end of the night, 40 more soldiers had defected. Not because they were defeated, but because they wanted to learn the choreography. And in the middle of it all was Jinho. He had not planned to be a hero. He was just walking to work when 3 alien soldiers blocked his path. They were tired and frustrated, and they wanted to take their anger out on someone. "Human," the lead soldier said. "You will come with us, now." Jinho looked at them. He looked at the mop he was carrying. He looked at the bag of items from the buy one get one free shelf that he had taken from the store. "No," he said simply. The soldier laughed. "No, you cannot refuse. We are warriors of the Velok Empire, and I am a convenience store clerk who has worked 6 night shifts in a row. You are not the scariest thing I have faced this week. That would be my landlord when the rent is late." The soldiers attacked. Jinho defended himself with the mop. It was not a graceful fight. It was messy and strange and involved a lot of hitting people with household objects. At one point, Jinho threw a bag of rice cakes at one soldier's face. At another point, he tripped a soldier with a pool noodle from the seasonal display. When it was over, 3 alien warriors lay on the ground. Defeated by a tired man with cleaning supplies, Jinho stepped over them and continued walking to work. "I still do not get paid enough for this," he muttered. On the mothership, Commander Brick watched the footage from the plaza. He watched his soldiers dancing with humans. He watched his weapons fail against synchronized movement. He watched a single human defeat 3 warriors with a mop. "Lieutenant Moru," he said quietly. "Yes, Commander? I am starting to think these humans are not as primitive as we believed." Somewhere in the city, Grandmother Yuna was expanding her operation. She now had 7 alien soldiers working for her. They had built extra food carts. They were learning recipes from across the planet. "Tomorrow," she told them, "we make fried chicken. The galaxy has never tasted anything like Korean fried chicken." Her alien grandsons nodded eagerly. They had found something worth fighting for. And it was definitely not the Velok Empire anymore. The Velok invasion was falling apart, and Commander Brick knew it. It had been 1 week since they arrived on Earth. In that time, they had lost over 200 soldiers to defection. Not death, defection. They had simply walked away from the Empire and chosen to stay with the humans. Brick stood before his remaining officers and tried to rally them. "We are the Velok Empire. We have conquered 47 planets. We will not be defeated by a species that cannot even agree on whether pineapple belongs on pizza." But his words felt hollow. Even he did not believe them anymore. The real problem was that human culture had started to infect his crew. Began with Lieutenant Moru. Moru had discovered Korean dramas. Someone had left a tablet on the ship, and Moru had found it. He had started watching out of curiosity. That was 72 hours ago. He had not stopped since. "Lieutenant," Rick said, standing in front of the screen, "we are in the middle of an invasion." Moru's eyes were red and wet. He was wrapped in a blanket. There were empty food containers around him. "But Commander," Moru whispered, "Junho just found out that his true love was alive all along. They were separated by fate for 20 years. And now they are finally reuniting. I cannot stop watching. I need to know if they get their happy ending." Brick stared at him. "You are my second in command." "I know. But love is more powerful than war, Commander. I learned that from this show." He pointed at the screen. "Also, the actor is very handsome. I think I have what humans call a crush." Brick walked away. There was nothing he could do. It got worse. Scientist Palo had locked himself in his laboratory for 3 days. When he finally emerged, he was carrying a massive document. It was 400 pages long. The title was "Why We Should Never Have Come Here: A Complete Analysis of Human Unpredictability and Why This Mission Was Doomed from the Start." "I have studied everything," Palo announced to the crew. "Their history, their culture, their biology, and I have reached a conclusion. Humans are not a species that can be conquered. They are a species that conquers you. They do it with food and music and stories and kindness. We never had a chance." The document was uploaded to the Veluk Empire's internal network. Within hours, it was trending. Soldiers across the galaxy were reading it and questioning their own missions. But the biggest blow came from an unexpected direction. Half the remaining invasion force had abandoned their posts to attend a concert. Not just any concert. A BTS concert. The famous band had decided to perform despite the invasion. Or maybe because of it. They wanted to show that humanity would not stop living just because aliens had arrived. The concert was massive. 100,000 humans gathered in a stadium to sing and dance and celebrate being alive. And hidden in the crowd were over 100 Veluk soldiers. They had removed their armor. They had put on human clothes. They held light sticks and wore shirts with the faces of their favorite members. They screamed the lyrics to songs they had learned in just a few days. When Commander Brick found out, he sent troops to retrieve them. The troops did not come back. They stayed for the encore. Back on the ship, Sunho had somehow gotten aboard. Nobody knew how. One moment the old man was on Earth, and the next he was in the recreation area, teaching alien soldiers how to play his mobile game. "You see," Sunho explained, pointing at the screen, "you must upgrade your base before attacking. And you need to form alliances. The game is not about fighting alone. It is about building relationships." 15 soldiers were gathered around him, completely focused on the tiny screen. "What about the invasion?" one soldier asked. Sunho shrugged. "What about it? The invasion is boring. This game is more interesting. Now, does anyone have snacks?" Strategy games require snacks. The soldiers produced snacks. They had been stealing them from the cafeteria for days. Brick walked past this scene and said nothing. What was there to say? In his private quarters, Brick received a message from the Galactic Council. The words burned into his screen like an accusation. "Commander Brick, you said this invasion would take 6 hours. It has been 7 days. Our reports indicate that you have lost control of your forces. There are videos spreading across the empire of your soldiers dancing with humans. There are recipes for something called fried chicken being shared on military channels. One of your lieutenants has started a review channel for human entertainment and has more followers than the official Empire news. Explain yourself." Brick sat in the darkness for a long time. Finally, he wrote back, "The humans are not what we expected. They are resistant to fear. They are immune to our weapons. They feed our soldiers until they no longer want to fight. They make entertainment so compelling that our troops forget their duty. I do not know how to fight an enemy like this. I am not sure it can be done." The response came quickly. "This is unacceptable. Fix this or face consequences." Brick laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a commander who had realized he was fighting an unwinnable war. Meanwhile, Grandmother Yuna had organized something special. She had invited all the defected soldiers to a feast. 70 aliens sat in a park, at tables covered with more food than they had ever seen. There was fried chicken and tteokbokki and bulgogi and bibimbap and dozens of other dishes. Today, Yuna announced, we celebrate. Not victory over each other, but the beginning of a friendship. The aliens ate. They laughed. They learned to use chopsticks badly. They told stories about their home planets. They listened to stories about Earth. One soldier raised a glass to Grandmother Yuna, the most terrifying and kind being in the galaxy. Everyone cheered. Hannah recorded the whole thing. It went viral across the planet. Humans everywhere saw aliens and humans eating together, laughing together, becoming friends. On the mothership, Commander Brick watched the video. And for the first time, he wondered if losing might not be so bad after all. Commander Brick made his decision on the 10th day. He stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the reports one final time. Half his soldiers had defected. The other half were tired and confused. The Galactic Council was threatening to remove him from command. And somewhere down on the planet, an old woman was teaching his former warriors to make soup. Lieutenant Moru, Brick said. Moru looked up from his tablet. He had finished his drama but had immediately started a new one. Yes, Commander? Prepare the surrender. Moru blinked. Then he smiled. It was the first real smile Brick had seen on his face in years. Really, Commander? We are surrendering? We are not just surrendering. We are leaving. All of us who want to leave. But those who want to stay? Brick paused. They can stay. Who do we surrender to? The human government? Their military? Brick thought about it. He seen the human leaders on their broadcasts. They seemed confused and disorganized. He had seen the military, but they had mostly stayed back, letting the civilians handle things in their own strange way. No, Brick said finally. We surrender to the only human who truly defeated us. We surrender to Grandmother Yuna. The news spread across Seoul within hours. The alien commander wanted to surrender, and he wanted to do it at a food cart. Grandmother Yuna was not surprised. She had been preparing for this. She set up extra tables. She cooked extra food. She put on her best apron. Of course he comes to me, she told Ha, who was already live streaming the whole thing. He finally learned what is important. Food, family, community. These things matter more than any empire. Commander Brick descended from his ship alone. He walked through the streets of Seoul as humans stopped and stared. Some took photos. Some waved. A few offered him food. He was a conqueror who had never been welcomed before. It felt strange. It felt nice. When he reached Yuna's cart, he stood at attention. He was trying to be formal and dignified. But Yuna was having none of it. Sit down, she ordered. You look hungry. I am here to officially surrender the Velic Empire's invasion force. I said sit down. Surrender can wait until after you eat. Brick sat down. He did not know what else to do. Yuna placed a bowl in front of him. It was soup. It smelled amazing. Brick had never smelled anything like it. Eat first. Talk later. Brick took a sip. His 4 eyes went wide. Something inside him, something he had kept locked away for centuries, began to crack open. This is, he whispered. Good. Yes? My grandmother's recipe. Passed down for 5 generations. Brick finished the entire bowl without speaking. When he was done, he looked at Yuna with something like wonder. We came here to conquer you, he said. But you have conquered us instead. With this, he pointed at the empty bowl. Yuna smiled. That is how it works. Fighting is easy. Anyone can fight. But feeding someone, taking care of them, showing them kindness, that is harder. That takes strength. The official surrender happened right there, at the food cart. Hannah broadcast it to the entire world. Commander Brick formally declared the end of the invasion and asked for peaceful relations between Earth and the Velok Empire. But Yuna added a condition. "You blocked my business for 10 days, she said, pointing at the massive ship still hovering over the city. "You owe me. You will work in my kitchen until the debt is paid." Brick, commander of a fleet that had conquered 47 planets, looked at this tiny old woman and simply nodded. "Yes, grandmother." In the days that followed, the Velok ships departed. Most of the soldiers returned to their empire, carrying stories of Earth that would change everything. But many chose to stay. Lieutenant Moru stayed. He opened a channel dedicated to reviewing Korean dramas. Within a month, he had 10 million subscribers across the galaxy. He became the most famous entertainment critic in 3-star systems. Scientist Pello stayed. He started working with human scientists, combining Velok technology with human creativity. Together, they made inventions neither species could have imagined alone. Sunho got a medal for his contributions to Earth's defense. He accepted it briefly, then went back to playing his game. Several alien soldiers joined his gaming clan. They won every competition that year. Taeho finally got some sleep. It took 2 weeks, but eventually his boss allowed him to take a vacation. He slept for 3 days straight. When he woke up, he found out he had been promoted for his calmness under pressure during the alien crisis. He did not remember any of it. Jinho was offered a medal too. He said no. "I just want overtime pay," he insisted. "I worked 10 extra hours during the invasion. That is all I care about." He got his overtime pay. He also got a small bonus. He used it to buy better ramen for his store. Hannah became famous. Very famous. She signed deals with entertainment companies across the galaxy. She became Earth's official alien relations influencer. She was only 18, but she was already planning how to introduce Earth culture to 100 different planets. And grandmother Yuna? 1 year later, she owned the most successful restaurant in 3-star systems. It had started as a simple food cart. But after the invasion, everyone wanted to taste the food that had defeated the Velok Empire. Aliens traveled from distant planets just to try her cooking. Humans came from every country on Earth. She opened a bigger restaurant, then a bigger one, then a chain that spread across the planet. Commander Brick worked as her assistant manager. He had never been happier. "Is this not strange for you?" Hana asked him one day as they watched customers fill the restaurant. "You were a conquering commander. Now you manage a restaurant." Brick thought about it. "I spent 300 years conquering planets. I destroyed civilizations. I was feared across the galaxy. And I was miserable." He looked around at the laughing customers, at the busy kitchen, at grandmother Yuna yelling at a cook who had used too much salt. "Now I help make people happy. I help feed them. I help create something instead of destroying it. This is better. Much better." Somewhere in the kitchen, Yuna was teaching her newest employees, a mix of humans and aliens, how to make her famous soup. "The secret," she said, "is love. You must cook with love. Otherwise, it is just food. But with love, it becomes something more. It becomes connection. It becomes family." The aliens did not fully understand, but they were learning. And high above the Earth, the Velok Empire added the planet to their official records. Not as a conquered world, not as an enemy territory, but as something new. Earth, status protected. Do not invade. Reason, humans are not weak. They are simply too chaotic to conquer. Also, the food is excellent. In the end, humanity did not defeat the aliens with weapons or technology. They defeated them with spicy rice cakes, sleep deprivation, and an old woman who refused to move her cart. And in a universe full of empires and warriors and conquerors, That might have been the greatest victory of all.